Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Staff Sergeant Samuel Kroll, and I'm with the North Dakota National Guard's Public Affairs Office. Today, we have a special guest, Scott Leier. How's it going today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I got coffee in front of me. You've got coffee in front of you. This is great. So, you work full-time with the 6 shop, and for anyone listening online, that is...
Information technology or the computer geeks.
With the stuff you've sent me, it sounds like you have quite a bit of certifications for doing this job. So tell me a little bit about what you do full-time in the Guard, and then we'll kind of caveat on to what you do part-time.
Full-time for the North Dakota National Guard, I'm the Cybersecurity Network Manager. Day-to-day operations include monitoring the network. We run scans on all the computers, all the systems. We make sure that we're tracking what patches have been applied and which ones haven't. We create user accounts. We disable user accounts when they're not when they're
bad people, right? I was there. I've been there.
Not bad people, but when they're not current on their training. I don't know. We have a whole bunch of different venues that we have to keep an eye on and tasks throughout the week that we have to do, and that's outside of the additional roles we just recently have picked up or acquired for ComSec and radio frequency management.
Ah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I could just about imagine in today's world how important your job actually is. We talk about threats, right? Whether it be cyber intelligence. I mean, the Public Affairs Office kind of deals with the same thing with like misinformation and stuff like that. Somebody steals a photo we post and then they post it somewhere else. Same thing kind of goes for us, right? Or I guess in your case job, right? If somebody's on the network that shouldn't be on the network, you're making sure they're not on the network as possible. But also, like you said with training, we have to have a certification to basically use network computers and, systems within that realm. And if someone's not doing it, you got to make sure they're doing the things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Cybersecurity is one of those jobs where it's really, really exciting from the outside view. And it is exciting when you do it as well, but... It is a lot of policy, right. A lot of regulation, a lot of reading, and you kind of hit the head on the nail there when you talked about all the users requiring that training as well. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do is we look at historical trends, we download the reports that come out from the industry, and a good portion of all breaches involve the end user at some level, whether it is a phishing attempt that they clicked on, insider threats, that's a little less common. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But yeah, informing the users on good cyber hygiene and good cyber practices while they're on their computers is going to be the key for a good cybersecurity program.
I like that. Cyber hygiene. So you guys are basically, it's like scrubbing yourself of dirt or something else. You guys are just doing it on the tech side. I love that. So you said something mentioned there that I kind of want to take on. You said you take trends. Do you use or do you look at a lot of trends that happen outside of the military to make sure you're, I guess you could say, on top of the game when it comes to internal use? Basically, I'll give you an example, public affairs. We look at trends and trending videos, etc., podcasts, right? Why are we doing a podcast? Well, because it's trending, right? When you go into looking at trends for cyber intelligence or anything like that, do you take, I guess you could say, civilian trends and bring them to the force?
So that gets a little tricky with how you worded that last part.
Sure.
So what we do is we follow a lot of the civilian trends as far as what we're seeing for cyber threats.
Right.
We do keep apprised of that. We also have requested and continue to request any suspicious emails sent to us so we can monitor what's happening on our own network from the users.
Gotcha.
And once we see 2, 3, or 4 of them, we can put out a message to the forces saying, hey, be on the lookout for this. Nice. We also receive a lot of bulletins or information from NGB or higher as well on what's happening worldwide. Some of the stuff that maybe the public isn't apprised to.
Right.
So we can kind of make sure we're patching correctly and protecting the network. Yeah.
Love that. You're doing all this cyber stuff, and that directs, I guess, us massively because a lot of our stuff has switched from, paper documents. Right now I have a couple of papers that you've given me for information, right? And that's been kind of the set standard when it comes to most companies. But now we're like in this digital era where that stuff needs to get protected. So that's where your job is like super important because, well, sometimes we have to use or we have to, send things that have specific information. And that's in the civilian sector too, but in the military, we have that as well. And if we don't have these certs done, it's just a big thing. So you do that for the intel, so you do that full time. What do you do part time? I know you're in the Guard part time, but what is your specific role? And you can start from when you enlisted to now.
Well, I enlisted quite some time ago. Started out as an aircraft electrician.
Sick.
I ended up getting on full time down at the AASF here in Bismarck, and I worked out there on the aircraft for quite a few years. Always had an aptitude for computers, so I picked up some of the computer programs they had down there running Alze.
Is it like tuning like a Honda? Like you sit there with a tablet and you're letting the wheels spin, except you're using rudders. Is that? Do you do that as an electrician at all, or no?
No. When I first got, we're talking back in the Huey days. So,
Oh,
so there was very little computers on there. It was
so
wire
it's kerosene and a lot of arm strength.
Now with the LUH, it's a whole different ballgame. They may be doing that down there.
Okay.
But no, I had an aptitude for computers, so I was on a handful of the systems down there working additional duties, and with that, I ended up pursuing the 25 Bravo MOS,
Which is
information technology.
okay.
That's your base computer nerd.
Okay. South Park episode, base computer nerd.
There you go.
Just kidding.
But no, I ended up getting that, and after I got that MOS, it allowed me to apply for the help desk technician, which led me into the position that I currently hold full time. And then since I was getting more and more into the computers and sticking around the Guard for a while, I figured let's make a career out of this and decided to go to OCS.
The dark side.
I took my commission and went off as 25 Alpha signal officer.
Okay.
That allowed me to get back to aviation as my first assignment, which was kind of cool to come back
Go
full
back to
circle. Spent some time in the 426 as a platoon leader, and then I am currently the HHD commander for 68 Troop Command.
Love that. So you talked about the changing of MOSs. Roughly how long did that take from that, what was it, 25 Bravo you said? How long was that change course? Or I guess you could say school.
So yeah, the MOS, I couldn't tell you the initial MOS time frame, but a reclass MOS for that was 9 weeks. It's a little tricky because 9 weeks is some time to be away. They had an opportunity to break it up into 3-week sections, which I took advantage of for the first phase.
Okay.
The last 2 phases I did together, which was a good idea because you roll right into your big capstone event, which you have to build a whole network and secure a whole network.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you work as a group,
Okay, good.
not just individually, but it's a lot of degraded knowledge if you don't keep up with it.
Yeah, I kind of that's a good thing to put, and that's one thing that I appreciate about schools nowadays. And I know there's been some changes to the Army NCOA schooling, etc. Sometimes, depending on the course, depending on the MOS, it's like, hey, we're doing 2 weeks online, and then we'll do in person. So that's kind of cool that they were still doing that, or they had an option for you to do somewhat, I guess you could call in today's world, a virtual way of doing it, but you're just segmenting it. You're not actually on a computer. Because, again, it's tough sometimes to get onto the network, especially if you don't access, and you can probably attest to that. So you're the commander. So you've been at the unit level. You were, a helicopter electrician, Huey. Was it Black Hawk or Huey at the time?
Well, at the time it was Huey when I got in, but I have worked on the Huey, the 58, the Black Hawk, and the LUH for a short period.
Oh, okay. So, so you did that, and then you went to your 25 Bravo course. Eventually, you went to OCS, you became a Signal Corps person, and now you're working at 68 Troop Command. You've had some deployments that I've heard, like you've gone to different spots. Where is your career taking?
I guess I went on the Southwest Border Mobilization. That was my only mobilization that I have for my career. But outside of that, through the military, I've been able to go to Corpus Christi, Texas.
Nice.
Fantastic location up in Devil's Lake, Camp Grafton. I've been there at least once.
Nice. I go there at least once a year to shoot.
No, other than that, we did go to the Virgin Islands for a site visit for an AT that ended up not happening, but I was able to go down there to test out their wireless capability, because all aircraft now require a network for their logbooks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all their logbooks are digital, and there comes into cybersecurity. We got to make sure we're securing that communication back, especially when you're talking about mission data that's going to be on that logbook.
Right. And I would assume even like payments, right? I'm assuming that log, like, I guess you could say tracks the flight hours per pilot or X, Y, and Z. So you got to make sure you pay people too. It's amazing how like one tiny job that you just think is one thing actually like encompasses 15 other subtasks that need to get completed. It's absolutely nuts. So you talked about
Not only
mission
the
success.
subtasks, but the additional cursory effects and other things that have to happen or that do happen because of that job. Yeah.
Right, right. So you're at 68 Troop Command now. You're in, like, what's your favorite part about it? Being a commander.
That's a pretty good question. I would say the interactions that you have, because normally in the past, especially as a signal officer, you have one of two interactions as a signal officer or a S6 staff officer.
Sure.
And that is very, very, very busy, or no one knows what you do. And it really depends on the experience of the unit. If the unit has had experience with signal officers in the past, they know how to utilize them. And then I jump into this role as a commander, and it's a full different role from
Right.
25 Alpha, but I have the ability to interact with everyone again. And as a enlisted, you are constantly interacting with everyone, so
Right.
it's kind of a little throwback to that, but with a bit more responsibility.
Yeah.
Not necessarily work, but responsibility.
Well, and that's the thing is it's like leadership is one of those, I'm trying to find like the best way to say it, but it's one of the most humbling experience and best experiences because it just kind of brings you back to home base. You know what I mean? We all had those people when we initially got in where, when people say like the best leader, a lot of leaders have really good leader traits, etc. And some people just have had like good experiences and bad experiences. So when you get into that leadership role, and even at your unit level, being a commander there, it allows you to take everyone's, I guess you could say, different variables and put them into perspective, and that kind of just puts you in a humble spot. It's like, okay, I got to take care of this person because he's got this going on, but this person is having a rough time. How can we get this person going? So it kind of just puts you back to square one. You do all this individual growth. You've had left and right experiences, and then you come back to home base, and you're like, how are my experiences going to help mold this next person?
Well, I 100% agree with you on that. And the other aspect of it is you don't know what little things you're doing throughout the day that have an effect on someone else.
Right.
Especially once it depends on how they look at their leadership too. If they're looking at their leadership for support and you're out there supporting them, you may think that's just part of your day, but to them, that is an impact in their career as well.
And that's about a big thing. It's like being there for people. That's like the number one thing. Well, that's fantastic. 68 Troop Command is a MACOM, right? But they also have a headquarters. How does 68 MACOM trade from 68 Troop Command, MACOM to HHD, HHC, whatever?
Well, therein comes
That's a loaded question.
that's a very loaded question. It also so with 68 Troop Command, it's a little unique. You don't have the medal, the mission essential task lists, and as far as the company side of it, the higher headquarters, the MACOM level has the staff, and the staffing sits in each of the sections that the company has.
Right.
So a lot of the mission and a lot of the tasks are driven by the staff.
Oh, okay.
And then as the commander walking around, the staff is the staff all outranks me, and and they're running the mission. They're doing the job.
Right.
I just have to sit back and
Manage the people aspect of it, I guess you could say. But
manage the people aspect of it and kind of plan for the next drills, how to make it easy for them to do their job.
yeah, and I think when I was there, I think that was the most interesting thing to learn because it is so unique, you being a aircraft electrician, and so being in that line, that base level line unit, and then going to a spot where your line unit is somehow still attached to a MACOM staff position. So a lot of the times, I think the one benefit with that being is that, okay, we have a staff in each section that can train in the, the line unit level, each person's job, right? So like in the MACOM, they've got the S1, which is admin, and you have admin people in 68 Troop Command units, so you can, or HAC, so you can have those staff officers back train, and then they can assist the staff officers, and it just becomes this left-right seat thing that's just really awesome, because then hopefully, by the time you become a 6 or a 5 sergeant E6, whatever, or excuse me, sergeant E5 or a staff sergeant E6, and you go out to another unit or another line unit or a battalion or a MACOM, however your career decides you kind of get that, I guess you could say, like rope on a leash, like come this way. You get that mentorship is basically what I'm saying. I could even see the same thing for you being a commander with, maybe some people that outrank or whatever the case may be. You have a lot of operational awareness being that commander to an extent that allows you to possibly help make decisions for your next move when you become a major.
Oh, no, even for my current spot right now, as the commander with the whole staff being there,
Right.
I have the support of all these senior officers to assist with any questions I have, any concerns I have, especially if I want to try and do anything unique for the unit, if we're going to move some dates around for IDTs, or if we're going to try and do additional stuff during a range period.
Right.
I'm not going to make that decision and fall flat on my face. I can go talk to some of these senior officers, and then they can give me advice or tell me, no, that ain't going to work.
Yeah, no, stop it. You're making it too complicated, right? Let's talk a little bit more about you in that sense. So this is basically free, whatever you want to put out there. But where are you from? Like originally, North Dakota, what city, high school, any fun things? What made you want to join the Guard, etc.?
All right, well, I'm originally from Mandan, North Dakota. I lived here my whole life. I've had a couple opportunities to travel, and I try and keep that, even without the Guard allowing me to travel. That's a bad phrase. Without the opportunities of traveling with the Guard, I find my own opportunities to travel. We try and go on at least one family vacation a year to do something like that. I'm married to Don Leier, and we got 2 children.
I love that.
Yeah, so we try this year, for instance, we're going to go to Maine to eat lobster.
Ah, is that the only reason why?
Yeah, really. So
Sick.
every year they have the lobster festival out in Maine.
Oh, okay.
And we've been talking about it for a while. It's like we want to attend it, and we looked into it, and it's a very small town style of festival.
Sure.
But it's going to end up being this big trip for me and my family to go have lobster in Maine.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, outside of travel and outside of growing up in this area here, I have a lot of different hobbies.
Okay.
I like to learn mostly. So
Sure.
So when I come across some unique style or some unique hobby, I usually dig into it, and I'm either all in or all out.
Right.
I spent a couple of years, about 2.5 years, collecting and restoring old axes.
Oh, cool.
I have a 3D printer, so I've been doing a lot of 3D printing.
Nice.
I play video games. I'm a computer nerd after all, so I played a lot of video games.
Yep. I'll see you on Apex after this.
Yeah, and then of course with that, computers. So
Right.
I have been building computers for quite a few years, breaking computers for a lot longer years than that.
Yep.
When I was little in junior high, even in grade school, we had a computer at home, and we're talking Windows 3.1.
Yeah, back when you had to turn on the monitor and the tower.
when you had to turn on the computer and you had to type in Windows to load Windows because you were still on DOS. But I would mess around with it, and it would break. And I would have an aunt that would come over. She was into computers, and she would fix it. And then I'd mess around and I'd break it, and she would fix it. And then one day when I was messing around and I broke it, she came over to fix it, and she's like, "What are you doing?" So I kind of showed her, And she showed me some tips and tricks so that way I don't break it, or if I do break it, how I can fix it myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And then it kind of progressed from there. I kind of always stayed with computers and electronics.
Right.
But yeah, the military worked out to feed into that drive I had.
Yeah.
And it's gotten me pretty far. So I'm in a very unique situation where I get to show up to work, and I may be overwhelmed and I may be stressed, but I love every day of my job.
And that's like the number one thing. And it's funny how you say that. Same kind of thing with me, right? I was in band throughout high school, and then eventually it was going to like, I was going to have a packet to do another branch. And then somebody pulled me aside, like, hey, there's an Army band. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So then, eventually, having music throughout my, I guess you could say junior education, etc., and then to finding out that there was a band, and now it is like my job in the military. So it's really cool that you say that with your aunt coming over and helping you fix things and being like, hey, like if you fix, like here's some chips. Also, I don't know how far your aunt lived away, so maybe it would have been just more beneficial to teach you rather than X, Y, and Z, but. That's actually super cool because a lot of the times what people think in the military is like they just work in the military full time, and it may not be the most thing they want. But the benefit is that you can find your niche within the military. You know what I mean? Like you've had 3 different jobs right now, from an aircraft electrician to 25 Bravo signal to being the commander, and now you're at this point where full time you're doing this and you're doing some leadership stuff on the side. Leadership is a full time thing. I didn't mean to say it like that, but that's actually really cool. So, so we talked. So when you're developing this love for technology, which is absolutely fantastic. What are some of the things that have changed? What are some of the things that has changed from then to now? Like we talked about. Okay, you don't have to turn on everything on a computer anymore and type in Windows. But like, what are some of the advancements you've seen? I guess you could say, within the military, from when you started being, cyber with IT, or from IT to cyber to now?
Well, I mean, world of changes.
Yeah.
A world of changes. So much has changed. We're talking from way back when you had floppy disks to load your games to having games now digitally downloaded or with the subscription services where you can just play them online.
Right.
To
everything almost being on the cloud, right?
Migrating to the cloud. I will say one of the changes that outside of that, you're just having changes in the way people do things.
Right.
The subscription rates are up, and instead of buying stuff, you're subscribing to it.
Right.
Napster, for instance, was a big thing where people were sharing media.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it became a lot more easier to get a hold of it.
Right.
So for some of these people living in North Dakota, for instance, you didn't have access to all the different media that was out there. Napster gave you that access.
Right.
And now you have your Netflix and you have your Hulu and you have all these other ones.
Right.
So it's easy to get a hold of the media again, and just seeing that change in society,
right,
where it's easy to get a hold of it. I will gladly pay this fee to get it instead of worrying about these peer-to-peer sharing networks like Napster and Kazaa used to be.
Yeah, that's you say that, the hardware changed, like from floppy disks. Yeah, it's kind of cool you say that, because from the change of hardware alone, we, rather than it all being actual hardware, so like a floppy disk or CDs, it's now on the cloud or shared via OneDrive. And then, like you said, the access to specific information or TV shows. The same thing goes for us, right? If we wanted a 201 file back in the day before iPerms was a thing, your records keeping systems, like you would have to send via snail mail said person's 201 file. Or like we talked to a lot of the people, or like a lot of my seniors before they retired. Oh, I have an entire folder of all the documents I've ever had in the military. And I'm like, they're on my phone.
Yeah,
you
don't need it in paper anymore.
Well, right. So that's still something that mind boggles me. And I guess you can even attest to this, like during COVID, right? Everything had to be changed, or we had to at least somewhat, I guess you could say, revolutionize ourselves as an organization, because, well, we couldn't all the time be in our office. We had to somehow figure out how to virtually get onto the network and X, Y, and Z, and then you bring in VPNs and
Well, now you're talking the infrastructure and the backbone behind supporting a remote
Right.
workforce, and that is, we had a lot of work to do behind that. But even in the 6, you're talking a mentality change
Right.
for the people who are working remotely. And I spent about 2.5 months remote work during COVID.
dang.
And it was I work on computers, but it was a change in my mentality to actually be productive.
Right.
When I first went on that remote work, I was in there and I'm like, this is awesome, let's do things. And a week later, I'm sitting around being like, I don't know how to function.
Right. Yeah, seriously. You put just your top on and for Teams meetings, and you're like, I really would just love to just sit and watch Netflix or something.
Well, and you have the distractions. So
Right.
I did have to make rules for myself. The door was shut to my office, and that was when I was at work. When the door was open, then the kids could bother me. But while the door was shut, I was working. I made an agreement to come in once a week to do a meeting in person and kind of do a reset on what my tasks for the week were going to be. But yeah, after probably about 4 weeks of working from home, I had it figured out.
Yeah.
And I was able to be productive at home. And then COVID comes to an end, and people start coming back to work.
And then comes another change of
and then
trying to
comes
get
another
back,
change.
get backing into the op.
Come back to the office and be as productive as I was at home.
Right. Do you think some of the byproducts of the changes we had to make during COVID were beneficial? So like your virtual teleworking or et cetera?
I think it's an absolute win. Number one, it's going to give more capabilities if you can work from home. You'll see a lot of people that take their computers home and are working in the afternoons anyway or the evenings anyway. But if you can work from home, you got that ability to, I think, if you do it correctly, especially have a better work-life balance.
True.
Instead of spending the whole day in the office and then still taking the computer home, the
Yeah.
computer's at home, and you can start to set those limits for yourself while you're at home.
Right.
The other thing, though, is there's a lot of concern, especially with new hires, if they're not in the office, how do you make them part of the team?
Right. Yeah.
And we have, and it really comes down to how you're going to implement your telework policies and procedures. We
Right.
have teams. You could have Teams calls. We can set up computer cameras. We can set up webcams.
Right.
And it may take a little more effort from the traditional workplace person to make a virtual and work, but I think it can work.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about that being, it may take a little bit more work to virtually take care of somebody. Like, it's hard for me to imagine it being almost any different than me, or for me being, say, a supervisor, walking up out of my office, talking about a report to somebody. It's the same kind of thing, but no pun intended. It's different types of legwork. One, you're getting up and going to the person's office or the person's desk, and you're saying X, Y, and Z, did you do this? And then you sitting at their desk for X, Y, and Z to help them through a product or whatever. And it's the same kind of legwork, quote unquote, as you setting up a file on the cloud share that they can access. It's the same thing, like we said, it's just a different type of work ethic in that sense. The change of work isn't too much. I mean, it's just rather than the effort going into your legs to get up and talk, it's over an email and sending it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's always been one interesting thing that I've always brought or always that I've asked, is it really more legwork? I mean, it's the same concept. You're taking time to go out and talk to somebody in person, and sure, if you can't see them, but in the sense that you can send them something and then get that product back if you send an end date, it's the same type of work. It just seems foreign because we're just not used to it, if that makes any sense.
Well, and it also ties into how people learn.
Right.
You got tactile learners, you got visual learners, you
True.
got doers as learners.
Right.
So you have people who can interact person to person, and they can't interact over the phone or they can't
True.
interact through email.
True.
And I will say, me personally, sending an email, I usually type it up, walk away, even if I'm in a good mood. Type it up, walk away, come back, reread it, and have someone else proofread it for me.
Right.
Emails can get misinterpreted very easily, and
Very
if you're
much
bad
so.
at grammar like me,
Same.
it has a better opportunity for getting misinterpreted. So therein, I don't not send emails.
Right.
I just found a different way to approach that and make sure they're correct.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too. And I'm not like defending, I guess you could say, virtual teleworking here in a sense, but I hate texting. It's the same thing as an email, just on a mobile device. So I will end up calling somebody more oftentimes than texting them because it's just easier for me to talk. As you can tell, I talk a lot. So 100%, there are different learners and there's different avenues. But again, same thing applies. You would have that legwork, whether they would still come to you for questions if they are a specific way of learning, and if that's the case, you'd make arrangements. So with that being said, with mobile, or I guess you could say virtual teleworking, etc., I heard something come out from NGB about BYOD. Could you talk a little bit about what BYOD is and what this thing is like with virtual desktop?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Bring your own device.
Okay. Okay.
So essentially, that is based off the concept that you would provide your own computer or cell phone, and then sign up for the cloud service that NGB is providing, or Big Army is actually providing. So they have two different options right now. One of them is going to be through mobile devices.
Sure.
You can sign up for that. I haven't signed up for that one yet, so I can't speak too much on it.
Okay.
But the AVD, or the virtual desktop infrastructure that they've implemented, that one you can sign up for through Teams.
Oh, okay.
And then you have a couple options. You sign up for it, you'll get a virtual machine. That virtual machine will be yours, so when you log on to it and you save stuff to the desktop, and then you go about your life, you'll come back later, it is still all there. It's
That's
not
cool.
like you're getting a new virtual machine each time, so you can build that and personalize it to yourself.
Oh.
You can access that through a web portal, or you can download an app on your computer.
Oh.
So for instance, on my computer at home, I've signed up for it, I've downloaded the app. When you double click on it, it will allow you to sign into the virtual machine.
Sure.
And it'll bring it up on your full screen, so it looks like your regular desktop, but you're now on a virtual machine, which allows you to access all the military websites and allows you to access the applications for O365, Outlook, and Word, because here shortly they're going to be removing the web access for those
Okay.
applications.
And I guess that kind of goes into the cybersecurity of it. There's a reason for all of that. Well, and that's interesting you say that, because, I mean, that changes first off, our lethality in a sense from full-time to part-time, and how well we get it all set up. I know there's a couple people that have tried the BYOD thing, and it sounds a lot easier than what used to be, right? So, I mean, you and I both understand, like, when we travel, we usually have to carry a MiFi or some puck, that carries a Wi-Fi capability that we have to link into to get Wi-Fi, and then VPN in, so we have a secure portal, etc. So that's a lot of steps compared to, I can't bring my computer with me. I'll have this BYOD app on my phone, quickly log into it, and then I'm virtually accessing my emails or any other kind of, I guess you could say, secure stuff, or just in general email, right? There's been many a times where I'm out traveling and I'm like, I got to reply to an email. I forgot. So that's actually kind of cool. And that's open to everyone too, right? That's any MD
open to everyone in the
soldier.
military. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Well, I guess let me rephrase that. Open to anyone in the military or a federal technician. We
Right.
have civilian federal technicians as well. But yeah, that's going to be the biggest benefit, is for our M-Day force to be able to access drill letters, access their military requirements, their DL classes and whatnot, from home with ease.
And that's such a big deal. I mean, we talk about breaking computers, right? Or you had talked about when you were younger breaking computers. A lot of this stuff, or at least when I enlisted in 2014, came back 15 from training, and then just signing a document, or not even signing, but like DL classrooms. So back when it was SSDs, just self-structured development, to go to become an E5, right? I had to log on to ATARS and then hope to God that my certificates on my computer worked for that website to even access the course, right? And with it being a virtual desktop, it's like having a preloaded desktop housed somewhere that you're just tapping into, and you don't have to download any extra certificates besides the app. Because that used to be a big thing for, or at least me especially, like where it was like, oh, you have to download all these different certificates because it needs to read your, your CAC, and then it has to read this, and blah, 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 blah. So it seems like a great program.
So yeah, the benefit is, especially if you want to use the web portal, you don't have to download anything on your computer to get it to work. Keep in mind, when you are on that virtual machine, it is still a government virtual machine with all the restrictions that a government virtual machine has on it. But I mean, I have my personal machine there. I do what I want on that, and then when I have my official business to do, I just sign into the virtual machine, and if I can't check my email on there, that's fine. I'll pop off and check it on my computer that I'm already on.
Right. So if I have BYOD or virtual desktop, does that mean that somebody up at NGB or Active Army has access to my computers?
No, 100% not. The original talk for the mobile devices was that it was going to have an app that you downloaded on there and you did all this, but it has evolved, and for the mobile devices, it's exactly like your computer. It is going to be a application or a website that takes you directly out to a virtual machine.
Oh, okay.
So everything you're accessing is on the cloud.
Perfect.
On a server up at NGB level or up at Big Army level, and none of it's actually on your device when you're working on it.
So it's just basically a bridge.
Yeah,
Basically.
it's a tunnel out to the...
So it's not like the Jurassic Park where the guy's like, nah, don't touch that. I'm really glad you, I guess I never really thanked you, but thank you for coming on the podcast. This is super cool for us to kind of break down, I guess you could say, kind of the barriers of what we do. A lot of people on the M-Day side, or what we call the part-time side, whatever. Your normal soldiers really don't know what the full-timers do. Kind of like what you're saying with Commander. They show up, they go to their office, then they're drinking coffee. I know mine enjoys donuts with his coffee, and he's awesome. But there's that little bit of a disconnect. So thank you for coming on to this. It's super awesome that we have you here.
Well, no, it's fantastic, especially even outside of the M-Dayers. There's a lot of M-Day or part-time soldiers that don't even realize the full-time exists.
That's true.
But within the full-time, IA or cybersecurity is the no shop. So
it's true. No one really knows.
Yeah, we get to say no to all your requests. So it's kind of nice to get out here and talk a little background on where those no's come from and and how we get to a yes.
That's awesome. So if you are full-time, just don't start calling Scott. He's just going to start saying no regardless of your request after a few requests.
No, it's good. It's a lot of it is our hands are tied from higher.
Yeah.
But the other part is to find the correct way to do it is time consuming.
Right. Well, and that's interesting. We talk about the infrastructure, and sometimes new things will change, not just your face value things, but everything behind the scenes that no one sees, if that makes any sense. So like when my computer isn't working, well, why? Like you said with the certificates, right? First, I love this analogy, KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. We use it for diagnostic problems all the times with audio or any kind of visual things, like, is the power on? Are your certificate, or in this case, is the power on? Did you do your training? Are you pressing the wrong button? Do you accidentally have another thing plugged into your computer, which you shouldn't, by the way? Network computers, that is. But yeah, no. So that's super cool. So we've talked a little bit about your career. We've talked about from then, or from when you initially started up until now. We talked a little bit about what you like to do personally and your family, and you guys are going to a lobster thing out in Maine, which I'm super jealous of. I love the coast. If there's something you would, this is kind of open to the floor now. We've really talked a lot about the cyber stuff and the BYODs and all the other things. Is there anything specifically that you want to talk about? Otherwise, I have like maybe one or two things that will kind of go.
No, specifically anything I want to talk about. I just came here to
just to bull crap with me.
Yeah, and just to sit down and have an afternoon talking. There's nothing really specific. I know that this was kind of under the pretense of cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. I could talk for hours on cybersecurity, especially the evolution of cybersecurity, even in the short time frame that I've been doing it.
Right.
Yeah, I guess if there's anything you want to ask me first, you can. If not, I'll ramble a little bit about cybersecurity in general, not just how it's related to the Guard.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at over, oh my gosh, dozens of certifications. Which,
dozens is a little stretch, but
lots of certifications. I see a lot of certifications on here, and I'm not going to ask you each specific one, but I guess one thing I will ask is, are these certifications something that you had to out of pocket pay for, or are these things that I guess the military sent you and you got certified? Because these aren't just like a letter from a NCO's course saying you graduated BLC. Like, these are actual civilian certifications.
Correct. That is kind of one of the benefits of the 25 Bravo, depending on where you're actually seated in your MTO.
Mm-hmm.
The 25 Bravo will a lot of times allow you to get Security Plus certified.
Oh, okay.
Security Plus, and these certifications are all, like you mentioned, industry standard civilian certifications, which does one of two things. Well, it does a couple things, but one of them is it makes you more employable on the civilian market, especially for those M-Day soldiers. The other thing is it's a civilian certification, so it's not a guaranteed pass.
Right. Not
saying your military certifications are guaranteed passes, but
right.
It's a little different than a military course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as a 25 Bravo, Security Plus is one of them that you get the opportunity to take. As a full-timer here,
mm-hmm.
Cybersecurity Network Manager, I was able to take a couple extra. We have different additional duties. So one of them is going to be incident response team.
Sure.
For any cyber incidents.
Right.
By regulation, if you're on the incident response team, you have to have at least one person that is certified ethical hacker certified.
Okay.
So that's another certification I was able to get. And with all of them, the military was able to pay for them. They all have fees, which you have to continually pay every year. And to maintain your positions and responsibilities, you have to have the certs, so the military does pay, or the federal government does pay for those fees. So yeah, those are some of the great benefits as far as working full time for the federal government.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up. It's no different, and I guess that kind of goes around. I'm going to use a lieutenant colonel saying here, but around the horn, in the sense that if you're a cybersecurity person, we're going to get you the certifications to be able to manage our systems, because we're not going to give Jane Doe or John Smith who have no experience in any of this stuff the access to manage all of it, right? Same thing goes for like our SIF, the CIF, our clearance, our uniform clearance and stuff like that. A lot of the times we're taking massive shipments up to Devil's Lake and Camp Grafton. Well, guess what? You got to drive a semi for that sometimes. So a CDL, we'll get you trained on CDL and forklift and all this stuff. And those are all, a lot of these full-time positions in the Guard put you in a position for success outside of the Guard after retirement.
I know that our electricians and plumbers, they have that journeyman process where if they get their MOS through the military, they can end up applying for and using that job skills from the military to get their journeyman's on the civilian side.
Yeah, and I'll plug the Guard here, and this is what I love about the Guard, is that a majority of the times when Guard guys get deployed X, Y, and Z, because we have all these civilian entity programs that we can, piggyback onto on top of our military education. Or let's say you're an electrician, for a Black Hawk or a helicopter or something like that. And that certifies you to do electrician work for a journeyman's course in some sort of capacity, right? May not be specifically on that, but you have base knowledge of electricity, of electrician systems and how they work, milliamp hours and Ohm's law. Like, what does that all mean? It means a lot, actually. So if you go over into any kind of foxhole or any scenario in the future, those civilian acquired skills that a lot of the times we certify you on will help you even more so outside of the foxhole in this sense. A good example I like to bring up is I've known a couple of people in early 2000s, right after 9/11, we had gone overseas into Afghanistan, and a lot of the Guard people set up shops, so they had the whole plumbing, insulated, X, Y, and Z. I mean, the houses were great. You looked at the difference between, not to shoot at active component here, but like the guard bases were much better in the sense of just structure at the time. Now we have systems that we pop up shop, and that stuff, if something were to go wrong, you have those civilian acquired skills that just benefit you more, right?
Yeah, you didn't have to wait to put in a work order and have the correct person come over and fix it. A lot of times you had the skills to fix it yourself.
Exactly, and it's crazy how that just in general all works. And I also, by the way, you as a 6 person and an IT person in the military as a commander is like the most beneficial thing, I feel like, for majority.
I do get that often at drill where they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're in the 6? Come over here. Let's work on this." Okay. So you're wearing 2 hats all the time.
And that's like, it's an extra stressor and an additional quote unquote a duty, but it's like one of the best things is when you have somebody in your office that is just super knowledgeable about all that stuff. I mean, even 3D printing, right? Like, holy cow, I would love to have brackets. And if you have the capabilities to do that in an office or help somebody out, it's perfect. Okay, well, the certifications we talked a little bit about. That was a bit of a ramble, apologies. But the certifications we've talked about, you said you had a little bit more you wanted to talk about cybersecurity, and I'll kind of open the floor to you on that. And
yeah, fantastic. One of the bigger things that comes to mind is the evolution of cybersecurity and the thought process of cybersecurity. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and the military still does it, but we strive for complex, hard to remember passwords.
Right.
Too upper, too lower, everyone knows the mantra. We're seeing it come more and more popular to do a passphrase.
Okay.
Instead of uppercase B A 5 E exclamation, we want to have something along the lines of the purple cow eats ice cream 12 times. What that does is that makes it a lot easier for you to remember. You can tie it to personal things. I don't have purple cows. It's not actually tied to me. But let's go with that. Big Boy has the purple cow. And
what is a purple cow?
It's a grape ice cream shake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the purple cow eats ice cream 12 times.
Is that just a North Dakotan thing?
I don't know.
If you're in North Dakota and you see a purple cow, it's normal.
Yeah. It came off the cup, but it's working.
Okay, it's a drink.
But no, it's a phrase that, and you'd come up with your own phrase. Don't use that one.
Yeah.
But it's a phrase that you can remember, and what that ends up doing is that ends up taking your password from 8 to 12 characters and throws it out to 20 to 30 characters for a password. Now, with the advancement of computers, the advancement of our processing power, and even getting forward into quantum computing that we're starting to see, explode.
Like Elon Musk right now.
I know, right? But with that, a shorter, complex password takes less time to crack than a very long passphrase. A very long passphrase takes a lot longer to crack because you're exponentially increasing the amount of variations that password could be.
Oh, right. True.
So historically, we have taught people to create to create complex, hard to remember, easy to break passwords. And now we're trying to switch that over to starting to create easier to remember long passwords. Outside of that, there's apps that you can get that will keep track of all your passwords. When these first came out, I was like, all your passwords in one location? No, thank you.
Right.
Don't write them down. Don't create an Excel sheet and keep it on your desktop with all your passwords.
Yeah, it's like having a top secret folder on top of your desk.
I've seen it.
Oh, no.
But with that, that's becoming more and more popular as well.
Right.
These apps, I'm not going to mention any. I'm subscribed to one myself, but these apps will allow you to log on to the app, and then when you go to your websites to log in, you just hit a button and it draws the passwords from the apps.
Oh, okay.
You can use the app to generate the password as well. You just put in it needs to be 15 characters and it needs to have this stuff there, and it'll build a password for you. So I have some sites that I go to that I don't know my password for.
Oh. Hey, trust me.
Yeah.
Sometimes my computer will be like, would you like to use this password? And I'm like, I Sure, let's go for it. Let's hope it works.
Is that the one that works?
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's just covering passwords, and we start talking about the other trends we're seeing in cybersecurity as far as user training. So user training used to be very punitive in nature. There's companies out there that do the phishing campaigns where they will intentionally send out phishing emails, and then when you click on the link, it takes you to a site, it keeps your information, and then they get a report. And historically, not so much in the Guard, but historically we've seen companies use that and then take punishment or place punishment on the people who broke that, and that's not conducive to fixing the issue.
Right.
So we're seeing that shift as well, where they are not just doing this phishing campaign, but when you click on it, it takes you to additional training. It takes you to additional learning, and that may sound like punishment to some of you guys to do additional cyber training, but
Just do it.
It's informing the users. You know?
Yeah.
And they're still one of the. It sounds bad. Users are the biggest threat, but you have such a large user workforce,
Right?
And those are the ones that are on the computer.
Yeah.
Threats change so frequently. As fast as the technology evolves, the threats are evolving. There's a lot of opportunity. Bug bounties is one of the big things that are out there, where companies open up their software and say, hey, if you find a bug, you report it to us, we'll pay you. So it's getting to the point now where they aren't just trying to stop people from doing stuff. They're like, yeah, definitely open up and attack us or attack this software, and let us know what's wrong with it so we can fix it and we can patch it.
Right.
Currently, the military is not allowing access on government systems to artificial intelligence.
Right.
So if you try to go to ChatGPT on your military machine, it's not going to work.
Right.
The interesting thing behind that is how people are now attacking artificial intelligence. So we have your traditional virus attacks, your traditional hacker attacks. You have the social engineering attacks where you talk to people and you try and give them get information from them by convincing them. And now we're seeing a blend of that attacking artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and you think about it, I could see why. You know what I mean? Why people would attack AI, because, think about it, right? A lot of this stuff being virtual. I've been the person, too, to use ChatGPT and personal use for, oh, gosh, how do I word this? Blah, 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 blah. If you have access to AI, it's like you're accessing a completely virtual workforce. If you think about it, right? We talk about lethality, right, in the military all the time. What's the best way? You want to limit the amount of exposure somebody has to threat, because the last thing you want is said person to face that ultimatum, right? So then you think about AI and how advanced that is nowadays. I saw a video earlier where ChatGPT now has a call feature where, and maybe I'm just talking bullcrap here, but like if you think about it, I was watching this and it literally, a guy called him and said, hey, how do I look? And then he turned on his camera and AI was able to scan the person, and he basically had it. He's like, how do I look for an interview? And she's like, well, you might want to run your hands through your hair and fix it a little bit. I think your personality. And it's like, are you kidding me? This is an actual feature now? And you think about that, right? And you talk about phishing attempts and how much AI is being used to attack users nowadays too. Constant contact, you're in any kind of area, you get geotagged, right? So like having your phone on randomly at a 7-Eleven, right? And then all of a sudden you get 7-Eleven emails like, did you like it? Blah, 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 blah. Somehow they have your card information, right?
So you say somehow, and you're going on, and I'll let you get back to it, but you say somehow they have your card information, and somehow this happens. And what it is we are giving them that information.
Right.
Pardon me. We're giving them that information. We are in a connected society, and we're freely giving that information. And people are downloading apps that will allow them to, it'll track your walking, and then you'll get coupon codes for all the places you walk by.
That's true. I do have a MyFitness.
Well, you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
You're giving this information out there for the benefit of whatever you're trying to get back off of this app or off of this program. But that data gets collected, that data gets aggregated, and then that data gets used.
Right.
Now, we're talking AI, artificial intelligence is going to have access to the data that they give it access to.
Right.
And you have to give it access to some of your data, and this is where it gets tricky, especially when you start trying to social engineer AI. You have a front for a website,
Right.
and it has artificial intelligence on there, so that way you can say, hey, what kind of products do you sell? And they have access to the product inventory. And you need to get a hold of a salesperson, so they have access to the list of salespeople. Now, what else is on that list of salespeople? Are they reaching back to an internal document that has access to that list of salespeople through HR, which also has access to that salesperson's social security number, has access to that salesperson's account that their check gets deposited to?
Sounds like cybernet.
and this is, as technology evolves, lessons are learned quicker as well.
Right, right.
So a lot of these things are either sanitized of additional data or they implement a, I can't remember the term, but it's essentially a buffer to that AI that makes sure that the questions you're asking or the information you're looking for is within a regulated amount that they're allowed to give out. So it is getting better, but right off the bat, AI comes out, and to the general public, it seems like it came out yesterday.
Right.
We're seeing it everywhere, but it's been on the surface for a while and getting attacked for a while.
Yeah. Well, and that brings to, when we talk about why people would attack AI, when you talk about it being so connected in that sense, right? The email, well, that email is associated to a credit card password or your banking account password on an app that you have downloaded. It's all connected. And it's crazy to think, because a lot of people, I mean, even myself, right? You take what you have on your phone for granted, like, okay, I got to pay this bill, like simple, easy, right? But if in case someone were to attack your phone, somebody could get all of your information with a snap of a finger. It's crazy. So, well, I love everything that we've talked about. Again, Scott.
I just want to cut in one last thing.
Yeah, go for it.
As we're talking AI, and that's one of the bigger things that I wanted to bring up, especially for the military, but for anyone in particular, when you're out there using ChatGPT, AI, whatever device you want to use, when you're out there using it, also be careful what you're putting into it, because now it has that in its database. So especially if the military's out there wanting to rewrite their op order to make it look a little better, and they're putting all this mission data into AI, that's kind of one of the reasons why it's not accessible on our computers.
That's true. It's all that user base.
There you go.
Watch what you put out online. I mean, it's no different than like a Facebook page. There are fake accounts everywhere. I love that. Thank you again so much for coming on. From anyone listening outside, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will catch you on the next one. Well, that's all we've got time for today. But hey, if you're listening online and you enjoyed the Guards podcast, feel free to give us a like. Or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We don't just make a podcast. We take a lot of photos and make a lot of videos of soldiers and airmen doing awesome things within the state of North Dakota. And with that, we'll catch you next time.